The great Galactic Council Hall was a place built to inspire fear and obedience. It was a vast dome of silver and crystal, its ceiling alive with shifting constellations, the stars themselves moving as if the galaxy bent to the will of those who sat beneath them. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the chamber, each seated in a floating pod that drifted into perfect formation. Their voices were hushed now. The decision they were about to make would echo for centuries. The target of their judgment sat light years away, completely unaware, so they believed. At the center of the hall, Speaker of the Council, an insectoid figure draped in deep gold robes, raised its many hands for silence. "We are gathered," it said, its voice magnified until it seemed to come from every corner of the galaxy at once. "To determine the fate of the species known as humanity, the charges have been read, the evidence is clear. Earth is in violation of the stability accords. They are dangerous. They are unpredictable. They must be contained." A ripple of cold satisfaction moved through the crowd. Some delegates nodded slowly. Others tapped their consoles, impatient for the final vote. Many had been waiting for this day for years. Humanity was new to the stars, yet in only a few decades they had grown faster, fought harder, and learned more than most. Civilizations managed in centuries, they were resourceful. They were stubborn. And worst of all, they refused to bow. One delegate, a long-necked reptilian from the Zora clans, leaned forward in his pod. "Containment is too merciful," he hissed. "Cut them off. Strip them of their fleets. Let their homeworld wither without supplies. In a generation, they will fade into history." The speaker's eyes black, unblinking, swept across the chamber. "Then we are agreed. The vote shall begin." One by one, the pods lit up as delegates cast their decision. Blue light for mercy.
Add.
Red for eradication through isolation.
Add.
In the shadows above, the public viewing tiers were silent, the crowd barely, breathing as the tally climbed. The screen at the center of the hall burned brighter with each choice. Red, red, red. The numbers against Earth mounting like an avalanche. When the final delegate cast their vote, the results shone across the dome for all to see. Majority, 92% in favor of quarantine. Technological dismantlement of Earth. Effective immediately. A low murmur of satisfaction filled the air. The sentence was passed. Humanity would lose the stars. Their fleets would be dismantled. Their shipyards seized. They would be pushed back to the dirt of their homeworld, left to watch the galaxy move on without them. No human representative was present to hear the verdict. They had been barred from the chamber weeks earlier, accused of disrupting proceedings and making threats against other council members. The council believed they had silenced humanity. They believed Earth would learn of its fate through an official transmission. Days later, when it was already too late to act, they were wrong. Far across the void, in the underground command center, buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, the air was tense and heavy. Banks of glowing screens filled the dark chamber, each one displaying intercepted data streams. At the center table, President Alina Vance stood with her arms crossed, eyes locked on the giant display overhead, the exact same tally that had just been shown in the council hall. "They think we're blind," she said quietly. Her voice carried the kind of calm that came from cold rage. Around her, senior military leaders and shadowy figures in black uniforms stood waiting. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with a cybernetic eye, stepped forward. "We've confirmed the vote," he said. 92% in favor. Quarantine order to be delivered in 40 hours. They'll move fleets to block the Soul Gate within 72. President Vance turned toward the far corner of the room where a single figure sat apart from the rest. He was older, his hair silver, his uniform unmarked by rank or insignia. Yet when he spoke, the others fell silent. "They've made their choice," the man said. "Now we make ours." The president's eyes narrowed. "Are you certain the project is ready?" There was no hesitation in his reply. "It's been ready for 20 years. For a long moment, the room was silent, except for the hum of machines and the distant thrum of power deep beneath the base. Then President Vance straightened. Her voice was steady, almost soft, but it cut through the chamber like a blade. Activate. Contingency 01. Around the room, officers turned to their consoles, entering codes locked away for decades. Deep beneath the Earth's crust, vast hangar doors hidden under oceans, frozen ice caps, and hollowed mountains began to open. Colossal silhouettes stirred in the darkness, their armor plates gleaming under artificial light. Engines older than some star systems roared to life, their sound rolling like thunder through the veins of the planet in orbit. Automated shipyards went from silent to blinding activity in seconds. Massive constructs, black as midnight and bristling with weapons, slid free from their cradles. Crew rosters were unlocked. Long-sleeping captains received encrypted summons. Across Earth cities, families clutched each other as the sky lit. With the slow, steady ascent of warships no alien had ever seen, far away, on the galactic fringe, a listening post picked up a signal, steady, unlike any known broadcast. A board sensor officer frowned, tapped his console, and froze as the data came in. "What is it?" his commander asked. The officer's voice shook. "Something's coming through the void. Big. Bigger than anything. It's on a direct course here." The commander scoffed. "A freighter, maybe?" The officer looked up, his skin pale. "No, sir. This thing's the size of a city, and it's armed." Back in the council hall, the Speaker of the Council was delivering the formal declaration. Against Earth when a faint tremor ran through the building, an impossible tremor, for they were in orbit. Delegates exchanged uneasy looks. No one noticed the thin crack of static hissing through the hall's speakers. Then a voice spoke. "Was human, calm, cold. We received your vote. Now hear ours." The voice had cut through the Galactic Council Hall like a blade through silk. For several seconds after it ended, no one moved. The delegates stared at each other in silence, their complex eyes blinking, antennae twitching, tentacles curling, in unease. The speaker tapped frantically at the console, trying to locate the source of the intrusion. But the signal had already vanished, erased, so cleanly it was as if it had never been there. No known species had ever breached the councils. Secure communication system. No one had ever dared. That night, the great dome above the Capitol glowed in the colors of celebration, but behind closed doors, the council's private chambers were far from festive. Security chiefs spoke in hushed tones. Theories were tossed. Like sparks in a dry forest, each one more dangerous than the last. Was it a bluff? Was it an internal leak? Or had the humans done something the rest of the galaxy believed impossible? None of them were prepared to admit the truth that humanity had been listening the entire time. Across the gulf of space, on the far side of Sol, deep in the Kuiper Belt, a station without a name stirred from decades of silence. Built into a hollowed-out asteroid, shielded by layers of dust and rock, it was invisible to any normal scanner. Inside, thousands of technicians in dark uniforms worked without pause. Massive screens displayed countdowns, fuel lines hissed, magnetic clamps disengaged. From hidden docks emerged the first of the Titan-class warships, vessels so large they seemed less like ships and more like mobile cities. The lead vessel, code-named Leviathan, slid forward on a slow, deliberate course. Its hull was blacker than deep space, broken only by lines of faint, glowing blue where shield emitters pulsed. The front section held a weapon so vast it made dreadnought cannons look like sidearms. Its engines could burn for centuries without refueling. Its armor plating was layered with alloys the galaxy had never encountered, designed to absorb and redirect even the heaviest energy strikes. And it was not alone. Hundreds of ships, each bearing the Titan designation, moved into formation like predators closing in on a wounded animal in the underground war room. President Elena Vance watched the fleet's activation through a secure feed. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes never left the screen. "We don't have time to posture," she said finally. "They will move to block the Sol Gate. We have 72 hours to decide if they ever get the chance." Man Director Marcus Kane, Architect of Project Titan stepped forward. Our advantage is shock. They have no idea these ships exist. By the time they understand, it will be too late. He turned to the assembled commanders, his voice low and firm. We strike their communications first. Blind them. Cut their lines. Once they can't talk to each other, we take their fleets apart. General Ramos, head of Earth Space Forces, folded his arms. And the civilian worlds? Collateral damages, there will be none, Kane interrupted sharply. We are not here to burn planets. We are here to make the galaxy realize the cost of trying to kill us. Every strike will be surgical. Every blow will be seen. They will understand that Earth's hand reaches anywhere. Cities across Earth, the population was waking to an unfamiliar sight. Warships, some of the length of mountains, were lifting silently into the night sky. No news network explained it. No government broadcast addressed it. The ships rose like dark leviathans from oceans, deserts, and hidden valleys, their engines humming low, while their hulls swallowing the starlight. Children pointed in awe. Parents held them closer. Somewhere in the crowd, old veterans of Earth's first interstellar wars stared upward with grim recognition. This was not a drill. This was not defense. This was the beginning of something far larger. On Mars, underground colonies emptied into the crimson streets as Titan-class cruisers rose from camouflaged bays, cut into the cliffs. Dust storms swirled around their hulls as they accelerated toward the void. On Europa, ice cracked and boiled as submarines surfaced not to deploy, but to reveal hangars filled with sleek black corvettes ready for escort duty. Even the asteroid mining fleets were recalled. Their cargo holds emptied and refitted for war support. In the dark between stars, an automated outpost belonging to the Ashara Empire picked up a new contact. The AI running the station calculated the object's mass, then ran the numbers again because they did not make sense. Its databanks had no record of a ship that large. Before it could send a full report, its sensors went black. The last thing the outpost's crew saw was the shadow of something impossibly huge gliding past, its outline lit by the glow of 100 smaller escorts. Inside the Leviathan, the bridge was quiet, except for the rhythmic beeping of consoles. Captain Elias Ward stood at the forward observation deck, hands clasped behind his back. He was a tall man, his uniform unadorned, save for a single insignia that few in the galaxy would recognize. His crew spoke in short, efficient bursts, the language of people who had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Status," Ward asked without turning. "All systems green, sir." "FTL routes calculated. First target locked." He gave a single nod. "Transmit on all bands." A young communications officer hesitated. "Sir, all bands?" "Even the all bands," Ward repeated. "They want to hear us." Across a dozen star systems, alien military stations, merchant fleets, and civilian colonies suddenly froze as their comms lit with a signal that bypassed all encryption. A human voice came through, deep and deliberate. "Attention. This is Earth. You voted for our silence. You will hear our answer in person." The message ended. Out. In the void outside the Leviathan, the rest of the Titan fleet engaged their jump drives. Space folded, and in a single instant, the most dangerous armada in human history vanished into the dark heading, straight for the beating heart of the galactic network. Far away. In the council capital, the speaker was awoken in the middle of the night. His aides were pale and trembling. "There's been an incursion," one whispered. "An attack on the inner relay stations. We think it's them." The speaker rose slowly, his throat tightening. "Oh, humans?" The aide swallowed. "No, sir, Titans." The first attack came without warning. There was no build-up, no formal declaration, no blustering speeches in the Galactic Council. One moment the galaxy's vast communication grid, the lifeline that connected thousands of worlds, was alive, with chatter, data streams, and encrypted transmissions. The next, it was nothing but static. From the edge of the Orith cluster to the core systems of the Hellion Empire, fleets froze in confusion. Starship captains barked orders to restore their channels. Engineers ran frantic diagnostics. Officers slammed their fists against consoles that refused to respond. The blackout was total. It didn't matter if the system was military or civilian. Encrypted or unencrypted, every signal simply vanished into a silent void. In the darkness beyond the trade lanes, Leviathan and its Titan fleet moved like predators through the deep. They did not target planets. They did not fire on cities. Their first objective was surgical, to decapitate the galaxy's ability to coordinate. Every major relay station, every deep space repeater, every high capacity, Aragon within hours. Some were destroyed with pinpoint railgun strikes that left their remains drifting in perfect silence. Others were taken intact, their crew stunned and locked in stasis pods. Left alive to spread the story of what they had seen, ships the size of cities, black and silent, moving with impossible precision. On the Leviathan's bridge, Captain Ward stood over a tactical display. Red dots enemy infrastructure blinked out one by one as his fleet's task groups completed their runs. Helion core relays neutralized. Outer Zora chain is down, reported the ops officer. Ward nodded, eyes cold. Hit their defense fleets before they realize what's happening across the galaxy. Alien admirals were still trying to make sense of the situation when their ships began dying. The first fleet to fall belonged to the Ashara Empire. Stationed near the Rylus Gate, 24 heavy cruisers formed the core of their defense line. The Ashara captain never even saw his attackers. One moment, his sensors showed an empty sky. The next, warning klaxons screamed as something massive emerged from FTL at point-blank range. Before the cruisers could even bring their weapons to bear, pulses of blinding blue light ripped through their hulls. Shields collapsed instantly. Armor plates sheared away as if they were paper, and in less than 2 minutes, the entire formation was drifting wreckage. On the other side of the sector, in the wealthy Hellion trade routes, Titan-class destroyers intercepted a convoy of military supply freighters. The alien escorts moved to engage only, to have their engines die in unison. The humans had deployed impulse bombs, a weapon the Council had banned centuries ago, for its ability to fry every system in its blast radius without killing the crew. One by one, the escort ships went dark, powerless, left to drift while the freighters were seized. And not a single shot was fired against an unarmed target. The message was clear. Humanity was not here to slaughter indiscriminately. They were here to take apart the galaxy's power, piece by piece. In the Council capital, panic was turning into fear. The Speaker convened an emergency session, but without the long-range comms network, half the delegates couldn't even attend. Those who did arrive brought grim reports: fleets disappearing, relay stations destroyed, key hyperspace routes now controlled by unknown forces. The only common detail from survivors was the same black ships, vast and silent, moving faster than anything in the galaxy's databases. This is an act of war, a reptilian delegate shouted, slamming a clawed fist on the table. No, replied an older, pale-skinned alien from the Calthus Union, his voice trembling. This is more than war. This is precision. Someone is cutting the galaxy's arteries and leaving the body alive to watch itself die. Far from the capital, the Titan fleet regrouped in the shadow of a dead star. Here, in the absolute silence of deep space, the Leviathan anchored while smaller strike groups fanned out. Captain Ward walked the length of the observation deck, watching as holographic maps updated in real time. Director Kane appeared beside him, hands clasped behind his back. They'll scatter their fleets to protect their worlds. That's when we take the capital. Ward glanced at him. And the civilians. They'll be untouched, Kane said firmly. We're not here to be the monsters they voted us to be, but we will be the shadow in every counselor's mind. Ward studied the hologram for a moment, then gave the order, transmit. Once. Again, the galaxy's comm systems flickered not with static this time, but with a signal that bypassed every lock, every firewall. Across thousands of worlds, alien leaders, soldiers, and citizens alike heard the same voice. This is the voice you silenced. Now you will listen. Every relay you rebuild, we will destroy. Every fleet you send, we will dismantle. You will see our ships above your capital, and you will remember this moment. The message ended. In the council hall, The speaker's hands trembled as he shut off the feed. Around him, delegates spoke in frantic tones, but a deeper silence was spreading. It wasn't the silence of "come law sit," it was the silence of realization. They had provoked something they could not stop. On the Leviathan, the crew prepared for the next jump. Their destination, the capital system itself. They would not bombard it. They would not raise it. It would arrive, take position, and wait. The siege would speak louder than any weapon. As the fleet entered FTL, Captain Ward allowed himself one final thought before the stars bent and blurred. They wanted us gone. Now we will be everywhere. The capital system was called Sarion, the political heart of the Galactic Council and home to trillions. It had been considered untouchable for over 6 centuries. Its defenses were legendary rings of battle stations, fleets of elite warships, planetary shield arrays strong enough to withstand 1,000 nuclear strikes. The system's star was orbited by layers of security checkpoints, automated mines, and hyperspace jammers. To most in the galaxy, Sarion was a fortress. To the Titan fleet, it was a target. The Leviathan emerged from FTL at the system's edge with no fanfare. One moment the void was empty. The next, a wall of black metal and glowing engines materialized in perfect formation. Hundreds of Titan-class ships hung in the darkness, their hulls reflecting the distant light of Sirion's sun. They did not advance, they simply waited. Sirion's defense fleets reacted instantly. Dozens of heavy cruisers and battleships surged forward from the inner system, their hulls painted in the colors of the Council's core worlds. Automated defense stations swiveled their cannons toward the intruders. Across the capital, alarm, sirens wailed, and citizens flooded into bunkers, convinced they were moments from annihilation. But the Titans did not fire. Inside the Leviathan, Captain Ward studied the tactical display. Every movement of the enemy was plotted in red arcs. "Hold position," he ordered. "No shots unless fired upon." From their vantage point, the human fleet looked like a predator crouched just beyond striking range, silent, still yet impossible to ignore. Every minute they lingered was another minute of psychological warfare. The Council's fleets couldn't risk engaging. They'd already heard what had happened to the Ashara cruisers and Helion escorts. Fear kept their trigger fingers frozen. On the Council world itself, chaos reigned. The speaker had called for an emergency meeting in the hall, but many delegates hadn't even made it through the capital's air defenses. The space above the planet was locked down, and long-range comms were still crippled from the earlier strikes. Those who were present argued over what to do. "They are here to destroy us," shouted a delegate from the Zora clans. "We must strike now before they close in." "You've seen what happens when fleets engage them," countered a Kalthus Union representative, her voice trembling. "Every ship we've sent against them vanishes. We don't even recover the wreckage." "They will not leave on their own," another said bitterly. "They've come for revenge." The speaker raised his hands for silence. "If we do not act with unity, we will be picked apart like prey. I propose we send an envoy to demand their withdrawal." "Demand." The Kalthus delegate shook her head. "You still don't understand, do you? They aren't here to bargain. They're here to show us we made a mistake." The debate was interrupted by a voice in the chamber's high speakers, cold, human, and impossible to block. "Your vote was heard. Now you will hear ours." In orbit above the capital, a single shuttle detached from the Leviathan. It was small, unarmed, and moving slowly enough for every defense battery in the system to track. Sirion's security grid hesitated. This could be a trap. But against all protocol, the speaker ordered the shuttle allowed through. Perhaps he believed this was a chance to end things without bloodshed. Perhaps he simply feared what would happen. If he refused, the shuttle descended through the pale clouds of Sirion Prime, its hull black and unmarked. It landed in the Council's private docking bay, flanked by dozens of guards from multiple worlds. Weapons hummed. Old shields were raised. And then the ramp lowered. A single human stepped out. He wore no armor, carried no weapon. Plain, the only decoration, a single silver emblem on his chest, a stylized earth, surrounded by stars. His eyes swept the guards with the calm detachment of someone who did not consider himself in danger. When he spoke, his voice carried through the docking bay with absolute clarity. "I am here with one message," he said. "You have one chance to undo your vote." They escorted him into the hall where the speaker and the remaining delegates waited. The human didn't bow, didn't salute, didn't acknowledge the pomp of the chamber, stopped in the center of the room and looked directly at the speaker. "You thought we would crumble. You thought you could strip us of the stars and we would thank you for the dirt under our feet? You thought wrong?" The speaker's mandibles clicked in irritation. "You will withdraw your fleet at once. Your presence here is an act of aggression against the human cut him off. We are here because you made yourselves our enemy. You have one chance to rescind your vote. One. If you refuse, the blockade becomes permanent. Fleets will never leave your ports. Your trade routes will vanish, and you will watch your power dissolve." Murmurs spread through the hall, some outraged, some frightened. One delegate called out, "And if we resist?" The human's gaze was ice. Then Earth stops asking. There was no shouting, no threats. Beyond those words, turned and walked out, the heavy silence in his wake louder than any argument. Minutes later, the shuttle lifted off, disappearing into the haze above the Capitol. In orbit, the Titans still waited, silent and patient. Their presence, a constant reminder of the galaxy's mistake. Inside the hall, the speaker slumped in his seat. The vote to quarantine Earth had been made with arrogance and certainty. For the first time in centuries, the Council found itself on the wrong side of fear. The blockade of Sirian had entered its third day. From the Capitol's glittering towers, citizens could look up and see them vast black silhouettes against the pale arc of the planet's rings. The Titan fleet did not move. They did not fire. They simply waited. It was worse than any bombardment, because every hour that passed stretched the tension tighter. The galaxy was watching. And fear was spreading faster than light. Across the Council's territories, worlds were beginning to fracture. Some member states quietly opened secret channels to Earth, offering support or information in exchange for being spared. Others began pulling their fleets back from the capital to defend their own systems, unwilling to be caught in the Titan's path. Old rivalries resurfaced as trust between Council members crumbled. No one could predict where the next blow would fall or if it would fall at all in the Council hall. The speaker fought to keep order, but the sessions had descended into chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, accusing rivals of betrayal, demanding military action, or urging immediate surrender. The blockade was strangling the flow of goods into the capital. Without supplies, Sirian's food reserves would last weeks. At best, the people would not remain calm forever. "We must negotiate," said the Calthus delegate, her voice trembling. "If we continue this standoff, our entire economy will collapse. They have crippled our communications. They control our trade lanes. They have not fired on our world," countered the Zora representative sharply. "That means they fear retaliation." "They don't fear us," the Calthus delegate shot back. "They feared us, they wouldn't be here. They are waiting for us to break ourselves." While the Council argued, a signal pulsed across the galaxy, one of the few powerful enough to bypass the damage humanity had done to the network. It was an open broadcast, sent from Earth itself. No encryption, no secrecy. Every planet, every station, every ship with a working receiver heard the same voice. It was President Alina Vance. Her image filled the skies above alien capitals and trade hubs. She stood at a podium, her hands resting lightly on the surface. Her gaze calm but unyielding. "People of the galaxy," she began, "you have heard only one side of this story. You've been told that Earth is dangerous, reckless, unstable. You have been told that we are a threat to peace. And now, by the vote of your Council, you have been told we no longer have a place among the stars." She paused, letting the words settle. "When you voted to end our future, you thought you were making an example. You thought you were showing strength, but you forgot something. Humanity has never been at the mercy of those who wish to control. Us, we do not kneel. We do not beg. And when we are pushed to the wall, we push back." Her eyes narrowed. "This is not about revenge. It's about respect. You will give it, or you will not exist to regret it. We will not burn your cities. We will not slaughter your civilians, but we will dismantle your fleets. We'll end your control over the trade routes. We'll break your ability to decide who lives among the stars. Oh. And when the galaxy sees you powerless, they will know why. The broadcast ended as suddenly as it began, leaving silence in its wake. On some worlds, the speech ignited fear. On others, it stirred something unexpected admiration. Many ordinary citizens had never seen a human speak so plainly, without the careful posturing of politics. The idea of a people who fought for their place, who refused to be erased, struck a chord. Back in the capital, the council knew the president's words had shifted the balance. Support for their hard stance was weakening. Even their military commanders were privately admitting they had no clear path to victory. The blockade was working. Humanity didn't need to fire a single shot to win. It just had to keep the noose tight. But there were still those who would not bend. We cannot allow them to dictate terms, the Zora representative hissed during a closed meeting of the Defense Council. If we give in, every upstart species will follow their example. The speaker rubbed his temples. If we resist, we risk losing everything. The Defense Council argued deep into the night, but every option seemed worse than the last. Attacking the Titans meant certain destruction. Waiting meant slow suffocation. Negotiating meant humiliation. No path led to victory. And still, the Black Fleet hung in the sky above Sirian, silent, patient, unshakable. On the Leviathan, Captain Ward stood at the observation deck, looking down at the jewel-like planet. "They're starting to break," he said quietly to Director. Kane nodded. "They'll vote again. They'll have no choice." And if they don't, Kane's expression didn't change. "Then we show them why the Titans were built." Ward said nothing more. The two men stood in silence, watching as the capital city's lights twinkled far below. It was beautiful in a way, this world that had once decided the fate of others, without consequence. Now it was learning what it meant to live under someone else's shadow. In the hall the next morning, the speaker's voice was grim. "We are left with two choices," he said to the gathered delegates. "Mercy or extinction." The council chamber was silent in a way it had never been before. The delegates sat rigid in their seats, eyes fixed on the tall central dais where the speaker stood. The air was heavy, as if the very oxygen carried the weight of the decision. Before them, outside, beyond the dome's shimmering energy shield, the black shapes of the Titan fleet still hung in space, their presence a silent reminder that time was almost gone. Reports from across the galaxy were flooding in, none of them good. Trade worlds were in panic, border patrols were abandoning their posts, and rebel groups in the outer colonies were rising against council control, inspired by Earth's defiance. Even the wealthiest systems were beginning to feel the grip of the blockade. Food shipments had slowed to a trickle. Fuel reserves were shrinking. Entire sectors had gone dark as power shortages spread. The idea of a quick victory over Earth had died weeks ago. Now survival itself was in question. The speaker's voice carried through the chamber. "We are gathered to decide the future not only of Earth, but of our own worlds. The Titans have not fired a single shot, yet they hold the galaxy in their hands. They're proving a truth we have long ignored, that fear is not the same as power. And now we must choose between two paths." A Holiday's play flickered to life in the center of the chamber, splitting into two glowing words, mercy and war. "You may vote." The speaker continued, "For mercy, lifting the sentence upon Earth, restoring their rights, ending the blockade they have placed upon us. Or you may vote for war, accepting the cost, whatever it may be." For a moment no one moved. Then, slowly a delegate from the Calthus world pressed their vote for mercy. Another followed, then another. The board began to shift, but just as quickly, the opposing votes lit up, red marks against the blue. The chamber erupted into arguments. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Some claimed that bending to Earth would destroy the Council's authority forever. Others warned that defiance would bring annihilation. The speaker banged the gavel again and again. But the noise only grew, far above the capital aboard the Leviathan. Captain Ward received the transmission feed in real time. "They're split," he murmured, watching the holographic tally flicker. "Between blue and red, This could go either way. Director Kane's gaze was cold. If they choose war, we'll finish this before they can even draft their battle orders. On the floor of the council, the tension built until it felt like the dome itself might crack under the strain. Then, the Zora representative rose to speak, their voice cutting through the noise. "We must understand what mercy means here," they said. "It means letting Earth remain. It means allowing them to stand as equals among us again. It means showing weakness that will be remembered for generations." From the opposite side of the chamber, the Calthus delegate rose in fury. "No, mercy is not weakness. Mercy is survival. They have already shown they can destroy us without firing a weapon. Could have taken Sirion by force. They did not. That is their mercy. If we do not accept it, then extinction will be our choice." The room fell still. Those words, "extinction will be our choice," seemed to hang in the air like smoke. The speaker gave the order for the final vote. One by one, the delegates pressed their hands to the console before them. Each vote was tallied instantly, the blue and red numbers climbing in unsteady bursts. No one spoke.
Ow.
No one breathed too loudly. Even the guards at the doors stood like statues. On the Leviathan, Ward leaned forward. "Here it comes." The last vote was cast. The board froze. Mercy, 213. War, 208. It was over in the chamber. The speaker exhaled, shoulders sagging. "The council has voted for mercy." The words sounded almost strange in his mouth, as if they belonged to another age. Within minutes, a formal transmission was sent to Earth. The Galactic Council rescinds its sentence. Earth is restored to full rights as a sovereign interstellar member. Hostilities shall cease immediately. On the Leviathan, Kane read the message in silence. Then, without a word, he gave the order to withdraw the blockade. The Titans began to move, peeling away from Sirion's orbit in perfect formation, their massive forms vanishing one by one into the darkness of space. Across the galaxy, the reaction was immediate. On human worlds, celebrations erupted. In alien cities, relief was mixed with unease. Everyone knew this was not just a political victory. It was a warning. Earth had stood against the united power of the galaxy and had forced it to bend, back in the council chamber. As the delegates filed out, the Calthus representative paused beside the Zora delegate. "You will remember this day," she said, quietly, "but not for the reasons you think, not for the weakness you believe you've seen. You'll remember it because it was the day you learned that you cannot erase a people who refuse to vanish." Far away, aboard the Leviathan, Ward stood at the viewing window, watching Sirion fade into a distant star. "Do you think they'll try again?" he asked. Kane's eyes stayed fixed on the stars. "Maybe, but next time, they'll remember how close they came to losing everything, and they'll think twice." The Black Fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind a galaxy that would never look at Earth the same way again.